Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and today you guys know what I'm getting ready to discuss. It seems like every other day there's an injury being reported. Listen, it's been a long 48 hours for your boy. I just had a tooth pulled. I consider myself as part of the injury report right now. It's just been brutal. So I apologize if I kind of struggled through this one. But I gotta admit, seeing yet another Cavaliers injury pop up across my phone screen is a little discouraging. It's not as damning as some of the others that the team has faced over the last couple of weeks, but here it is. Keon Ellis, right? Cavaliers guard Keon Ellis injured his left index finger in Wednesday night's game at Milwaukee. A post-game examination by the Cavaliers medical staff, followed by x-rays taken at the arena, confirmed a non-displaced solar plate avulsion of his left index PIP joint. Ellis will undergo treatment and continued evaluation and listed as questionable tonight at Detroit. His status will be provided as appropriate. So, those of you who follow me over on social know that I do typically grab the NBA official injury report and post them online in my own format. And that is exactly how Keon Ellis is being presented right now. Questionable for tonight's very big matchup against the Detroit Pistons. A matchup, mind you, that there are a handful of other Cavaliers that are either slated to miss or are questionable themselves. It is just been just an abysmal reporting as of late for this team. As of right now, Keon Ellis is listed as questionable. James Harden with the right thumb injury is also listed as questionable. Dennis Schroeder was added with a right ankle sprain, as well as Dean Wade. Additionally, a right ankle sprain for him, too. We already know that Max Strus has been out all season. Donovan Mitchell is currently listed as out with the groin injury. So that just leaves the Cavaliers just decimated by potential injuries. Questionable does not mean out. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. There's every bit the possibility that we do see every single one of these players that is currently listed as questionable in the game tonight, but there still remains a huge possibility that we don't see them as well. It is absolutely feeling like we cannot catch a break here in Cleveland. And again, this could be much worse than was reported. So I do want to just express my express my feeling of general hopefulness and optimism regarding that because I truly believe it could have been worse. Thanks to my guy Reef Gang over on X, who did a little bit of research on what a non-displaced volar plate avulsion actually is. Apparently, it's a common, generally minor finger injury caused by hyperextension, which is the example for that they have listed is jamming your finger. And I know that if you've played a sport, especially football or basketball, you know how painful jamming one of your fingers can feel. I used to do it all the time when I was playing ball where a ligament pulls a tiny unshifted fragment of bone from the middle phalanx. Treatment involves 2 to 3 weeks of body taping or dorsal extension splinting, PIP joint, and slight flexation to allow healing, followed by early motion exercises. So essentially, they're just going to tape that shit up. That's what's going to end up happening for Keon Ellis, in my opinion. If he does end up going out there and doesn't miss any time, he'll just play with his fingers taped up a bit. Now, obviously, that carries with it a little bit of, I would assume, discomfort as well as just it's probably going to take you out of your shooting flow. But I have no doubt in my mind that if Keon Ellis is out there, he feels like he can play, then he'll contribute. He will find a way to contribute, whether that be on the defensive end. But does have to be noted, this is a chaos agent defensively who does use his hands and his length and wingspan out there to contest shots and just muck things up in the passing lanes. And he's been rejecting shots throughout the entirety of his career. So that could potentially impact him out there. Roll the highlight reel here. It's gotten to a point with Keon where you're happy with what he brings to the table on the defensive side of the basketball. Obviously, you know that he is one of these guys that can and will manage to disrupt on that end, right? Somebody that continuously rejects shots, somebody who continuously steals the ball away, somebody who will fight through screens, somebody who will just make life pure hell on you at the point of attack. And he's a terrific help defender out there. And so, assuming that he does suit up, I would have to also assume that that takes a little bit of a hit as well. I would assume that Keon probably won't be nearly as effective as he has been on that specific side of the basketball if this is the case, if he does end up playing, simply because you're not going to be able to apply your typical amount of pressure if he is doing that, right? That said, I remain hopeful and optimistic about the timetable here. If it is just 2 to 3 weeks, because I know they're going to reevaluate him, I think he'll be fine. Even if he has to miss a game or two here and there, just kind of a preventative type of thing, and you're wanting to keep him safe from re injuring himself or from injuring it further. If he has to sit, I think they'll be okay. The problem is that they've suffered so many damn injuries, or they have so many guys that are banged up, that you're really going to have to go deep, deep, deep into your reserves. Now, that's on one side of the token, it sucks, but at the same time, it does continue to give Cleveland and their young pieces, guys on the latter end of the rotation, an opportunity to see game time action. We've already seen how impactful guys like Craig Porter Jr. can be when they're actually given time, as evidenced by what he was able to bring to the table in that game against Milwaukee. And even though the Cavaliers lost, I still was heavily encouraged by what he brought to the table. 9+ assists, right? Conducting the offense, somebody that is not afraid to play defense out there at the point of attack. You got guys like Tyrese Proctor, who are still waiting for their opportunity, who was highly touted as a second round pick, and on and so forth, right? There are definitely pieces on the latter end of that bench that will step in at the drop of a hat if you give them the opportunities to. And we've already seen some of those play big roles this season, like a Naquan Tomlin, like a Craig Porter Jr. It's happened, and it will continue to happen for this team. But nevertheless, I hate to see Keon be injured, because it's just one of those things that that sucks to see happen continuously. Because I feel like every other week I'm up here with you guys talking about an injury, whether that be James Harden, whether that be Max Strus, whether that be Evan Mobley, right? It just continues to happen for this team. And so they just have such bad luck. It just feels like it never ends. But again, I do feel compelled to say this is not a terrible injury. It's not like a broken hand or a torn ligament or an ACL issue, right? It's not one of those soft tissue types of things that will continuously nag him. It is literally just a slight, what appears to be broken bone. That's what it all boils down to. And I think it does have to be taken into consideration that he's listed as questionable. Now, again, the Cavaliers, they've gone through some of this bullshit in the past where for some reason they refuse to rule a guy out, knowing damn well they have no intention to play him. See the JB Bickerstaff era, for one. There was constant complaints about guys not necessarily telling the truth, or the Cavaliers organization not necessarily giving and providing clarity on whether or not a guy could play or not. We saw that during the playoff series against the Orlando Magic, with Jarrett Allen being included on the injury report. And I'll tell you what, very, very, very encouraged by the fact that he's still on the injury, or still on their injury report as questionable, and not literally just out, because it could be much worse than it actually is. Now, if I am not mistaken, Keon Ellis, he's somebody obviously that was brought over with the thought being that this guy is a very valuable three-point spacer, not necessarily extremely valuable, but somebody that can knock down the open three on decent volume and rather efficiently, as he is a 41+% shooter from deep. But I don't know how much of an impact this could potentially have on his shot making out there. I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I have to assume that this will impact him to some degree. It's not as if you get your hands taped up potentially if he's out there, because I'm going to assume that's what ends up happening, right? I think that Keon Ellis is actually right-handed, so this is non-shooting hand. So I don't think it'll be too much of an issue, but I still think it'll end up bothering him just a bit. This is offhand, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's listed as right-handed. But We shall see what ends up happening. I continue to be I hate to see these things pop up because again, I say this time and time again. Anytime you see that font pop up with the gold lettering and the black screen, you just know that it just means some type of bullshit out there. And I hate to see it. It sucks. It sucks the high hell because you just know the fact that Cleveland has had to deal with this because it just feels like every single time they get a little bit of traction out there, every single time they start going on a roll and they start looking like a really, really solid and contending type of team, an injury surfaces and robs them of the consistency in regard to the rotation. And again, Keon is just 9 games into his Cavalier tenure, and the Cavaliers have gotten off to a wonderful start with him being in town. But thankfully, this is coming at a point in the season at which you can afford him the potential time off if he needs to take that. But it's not even a guarantee, right? Not a guarantee that he'll be out. I would have to think that he'll play. I think one of James Harden or Keon Ellis will suit up tonight. I know Dennis is also listed as questionable. Dean Wade is also listed as questionable. I think 2 out of those 4 will play, if not 3 out of 4. We'll end up seeing what happens, but I think he probably just this just screams I jammed my finger. That's what this is. And again, any of you who've played hoops or you've played football, much like I did, I was a 2-sport athlete. You know what that feels like. That shit sucks, but you can still play with it. It's one of those things that is not going to render you unable or unable rather to suit up. It's just one of those things that bother you throughout the course of the game. So I don't know. Keon, in his 9 games with the Cavaliers so far, is averaging 6.4 points, 2.8 rebounds, 1.9 assists. And here's the killer part. This is what sucks about this potential injury. He's averaging 1.6 steals and 1 block per game as a Cavalier, as a fucking guard. He is averaging 1 block per game. Now, obviously, it's not the first guard to go out there and do that. And some people may not even classify him as a guard, but that's what Basketball Reference lists him as. I kind of consider him a wing out there. But at the end of the day, his disruptiveness on that side of the basketball is heavily due to the fact that he can use his hands to muck things up. So let's hope that that isn't diminished by not being able to go maybe necessarily full force, full-fledged out there while you're attempting to reject shots or swipe down at the ball, things of that nature that you do kind of need your hands to be able to do. But I think they'll make do. They'll be okay. And thankfully, this is not any major injury. And I would have to believe that it's going to be a short window here and that maybe hopefully like Evan Mobley, he'll be a quick healer. That's really what this boils down to, though. I think you can afford them the time, though. I think that nights like tonight, obviously, against an opponent in the Detroit Pistons who represent the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and to be honest with you, a huge hurdle for this Cavaliers team from a physicality standpoint. You need as many available bodies as you can. Detroit sits at 43-14 right now. Cleveland is at 37-23. They are 7.5 games back of the first seed. They're a half game back of third and 2 games back of the second seeded Boston Celtics. When you have a matchup like this, of this magnitude, coming against a Detroit team that is obviously very hot, they're winners of 8 of their last 10, and we already know the Cavaliers, from a physicality standpoint, there's still some question marks out there from fans that really just believe that this team struggles. Potentially, the bigs struggle with the physicality of a Jalen Duren, of an Isaiah Beef Stewart out there. This is a matchup where you want to have as many available bodies to throw at them as possible. And I would be willing to bet that, like I said, 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 4 guys that are listed as questionable probably just duke it out. Not duke it out. What's the word I'm looking for? They gut it out, right? They gut these injuries out. I think that they will end up playing. Now, the determining factor here is, I think, pain tolerance. Like, they could suit up, but just because they enter the game doesn't mean they'll stay there that long. If James Harden's his thumb is messing with him, maybe he doesn't play his full starter complement of minutes. If Keon Ellis's finger is making it difficult on him to play aggressive out there and make an impact and it's painful, maybe you don't see him play the general complement of minutes he does, and so on and so forth with Keon, with Dennis and Dean and company. But we'll end up seeing what happens. I think that I still am pretty confident in the Cavaliers' ability to go out there and compete, whether they win or lose this game against Detroit. But I would like to see them win, obviously, more than anything. We'll just have to be patient in regards to the news, in regards to who sits and who ends up suiting up for this team. With that said, let's go and hop into the chat. Basketball Gooner says, bro, we can't catch a break. That's exactly how I feel too. John Bontia says, I need my tooth pulled too. Yeah. Listen, my face is still a little bit swollen. It's hitting a little bit by the microphone here, but the bottom right side of my face is like still, I can feel it. It's one of those things that's going to take a couple of weeks to fully heal. Beast Girl says just have to lock in on defense tonight. Yeah, again, with Keon potentially in or out or not being able to be as aggressive out there, that might be a little bit more difficult, especially if Dean is not playing. We'll see, but I don't. This is the type of opponent that will play physical. So Cavaliers got to return some of that energy, if not all of it. Steph899 says, "Bro, you have to be joking." Soft Taco says, "Dang man." Mick Goggle says, "If we're going to be injured, let's do now, and we'll be healthy for playoffs." Yes, this is coming at a time where you can afford for guys to sit or miss time, or you have to play it cautiously with them. Much rather this come now and give them the time to heal up than it coming during like the first round of the playoffs or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. Basketball Gunner says, now we know for sure he will not be able to catch an outlet pass. Yeah, he's kind of struggled with that since coming over. HJ17 Gaming says, is it his shooting or offhand? I believe it's his offhand. I think Keon is right-handed, if I'm not mistaken. You better stop. It says, do we still stand a chance against the Pistons later? To be honest with you, if all of these guys don't play, I would say it's closer to a chance that they lose. And this is not me trying to disrespect the guys that will still suit up, like a Jarrett Allen, who's been absolutely magnificent lately, or an Evan Mobley, who's not listed on the report. But that's a huge loss. If you don't have Dean, if you don't have Keon, if you don't have Dennis, if you don't have James, you're probably looking at like a close L. I don't think it'll be a blowout, even if all those guys miss time. But I do believe it's closer to the chance that they lose this game than they would win it. I don't want to ever count them out. I hate doing that, but I got to be honest and objective. It would not make me feel confident heading into that game. J47 says, am I the only one that hates the way the Pistons are cosplaying the bad boys? Whatever works for them, though, right? You know, I mean, people always talk about how this era of NBA players is soft and they're all buddy, they're all friends. Today, though, they just, there are players out there individually that play extremely physical. They play within the confines of the NBA rules, and they sometimes they do a little much, but I don't really have a problem with it as long as they're not out there directly trying to injure folks. But that's just me. Arlo Sar says, is it just me, but I feel more confident in a round one versus Detroit than Boston or New York because of how bad the Cavs defend the three and how bad the Pistons shoot it? No, I don't think you're the only person. I think obviously that the Cleveland Cavaliers have struggled to defend the three-point line for a good portion of the season. Keon Ellis absolutely helps with that. Dennis, believe it or not, helps with that too, because both of these guys chase and run guys off the line. They consistently contest shots from range, but this is still a team-wide issue. So if I had to pick a matchup in round one, which I don't think the Cavaliers will play Detroit in round one, considering the structure, because one plays 8, and I don't think the Cavaliers will drop that far. I would feel confident in a round one matchup versus them. Now, as currently structured, with the Cavaliers being, I believe, the fourth seed. Four plays five. So you would have a matchup with the Toronto Raptors, which that could go either way. Toronto has gotten the best of Cleveland this year, but we do have to keep in mind that that was pre-trade. I think the Cavaliers are better equipped to handle a team like Toronto as of right now. B Scroll says the Pistons of today play hard, but they can't never be the 1988, 89, 90 Detroit Pistons. No, sir. Agreed. Carmona says, was Rocket Arena built over an ancient cemetery? At this point, I think we are cursed. That's what it feels like. I think I've made this joke a number of times, every single time one of these pops up. Like, who did we offend? Whose grave did we spit on? Who offended the basketball injury gods? It's certainly ridiculous to me that they have suffered these injuries, and I hope that that doesn't continue to be a consistent theme as this season goes on. Steph 899 says check Brett Siegel NBA for a full-ish report, but it's his left finger. NBA players describe this as a jam finger and will eventually require surgery. No clear reason to think he'll play worse. If he gets the fingers taped, though, if it's just jammed and they're not going to do anything, they're not going to tape it, they're just going to treat it as needed. I would think that he'll probably still play aggressively, but if they tape it, I think there'll be a little bit of a mobility issue with the hand, and he'll be a little bit more cautious subconsciously. And we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But at least it's not on his shooting hand. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. But I think that's probably a good stopping point. I just wanted to pull up here and before tonight's game and get my thoughts out on this Keon news, because it sucks, but it ain't the end of the world. And certainly he might not even miss time. The injury report definitely looks a little scary, but I do want to encourage people to understand that questionable does not mean out. So there's a huge possibility that all four of the guys that are listed as questionable, whether that be Keon, Dennis, James, or Dean, still a huge possibility that each of them play. Probably a larger possibility that at least one or two of them miss, but I still think that at least two of them will play. We'll end up seeing what's happening with this team as the day goes on. But if you're still here by chance, do your boy a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to keep the NBA content coming, and hit that notification bell so you stay locked in all season. If you want to support the show in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can do so for as little as $1. You can do that on YouTube too if you want. But even if you guys don't, your boy will still be here creating the content because I love this team, and I know you guys do too. Go Cavs.